Hello everybody, Infinite Shinjo here, and welcome back to another review in my series where I review. And today I am going to be talking about Bokuben We Never Learn. It's a funny thing that I'm discussing this at the end of the spring season because the winter season basically had an anime that's more or less the same premise, just different characters. The show basically starts off with Nariyuki Yuiga, who basically is what everybody would expect from a show like this. Hardworking, good at studies, whatever. Already has his life more or less planned out, what university he wants to go to for the future and all that stuff. And the principal, I believe, decides to have him tutor a couple of girls that, while they're great at subjects, they want to go into a study in a subject they're not good at. It's kind of an odd premise to have the plot basically be these girls are geniuses, but they want to study something else that they're not good at, and they bring it up a couple of times in the show. Among these are Fumino Furuhashi, who is good at literature but horrible at math, Rizu Ogata, who's good at math but horrible at literature, and then Urika Takamoto, who's good in athletics, but is basically horrible at every other subject. And there are a couple of other girls that are thrown in, thrown out, whatever, but those are essentially the three major ones. And of course, if you couldn't guess from the plot so far, after tutoring them for so long, all three of these girls gradually develop feelings for them, and then they're thinking, no, this isn't exactly what I'm feeling, and so on and so forth. But let me move on to the characters, even though I did kind of mention a couple of them so far. First up, Nariyuki Yuiga. I already mentioned over his character so far, except for the fact that he comes from a poor family, which is the driving force for why he wants to tutor these girls, because they'll waive all of his tuition away and he wants to worry about paying for that. And this, which I actually didn't remember at first, I'm looking online right now. Apparently, he decided to get into studies because of his late father, which I didn't remember that, and it's kind of a weird thing because they have some sort of weird obsession with that in this show, kind of. But essentially, outside of that, he's exactly what you would expect from a character like this. He's hardworking, diligent, but he just can't help from getting himself into weird situations with the girls. Up next, I don't remember how I have these set up, is Rizu Ogata. Okay, let's see. She's great at math and science, but has a hard time dealing with emotions. Don't we all? And again, I'm reading over the site. She's passionate about board games and card games, which is essentially because she got a lot of them from her late grandmother. Why is this a thing in the show? She hasn't won a single card game, but I feel like it'll be one of those things where it's not really winning that matters, it's just having fun. And she also runs an udon shop, so that gives you a different sort of setting with the show. Alright, now let's see who's up next. If I'm not mistaken, Fumino Furuhashi, which, getting this out of the way now, she is my absolute favorite character of the show. Let me know what yours are down in the comment section before I get too carried away in this video. In this part, I am not lying to you when I say this. Might be hard to believe, but she decides that she wants to pursue a degree in astronomy to look for a certain star which she believes is the reincarnation of her late mother. I'm telling you, this show has some sort of affinity with death. Halfway through the show, she decides to tutor Nariyuki on how to win a girl's heart, where she's supporting him with these other girls, but gradually finds herself falling for him as well. Usual antics, you know. And next up is Urika Takamoto, I believe? Yeah, Urika Takamoto. I could literally just tell you she's the childhood friend, and you would get the whole story of her. She's a great swimming prodigy. She wants to be an Olympic athlete, get an Olympic scholarship, but because of her poor academics, she needs to be tutored. And of course, being the childhood friend, she has a crush on Nariyuki, literally since back in middle school, but has trouble talking to him about it. And then when she does admit that she has feelings for him, she basically says that it's a friend in this situation rather than her, and that makes things awkward and uncomfortable. Normal stuff, you know. If I would have to claim right now, I would say that Takemoto is my least favorite character in the show. Basically just because she fills the role of the childhood friend, and that's essentially it. And a lot of the misunderstandings between her and Yuika are just sort of, seriously? That's just so stupid that you would get into a dumb misunderstanding because of that. But that's essentially the whole show, like I've been saying. Then we get into the internet's favorite character, Mafuyu Kurisu, a teacher at the academy, Rizu and Fumina's former tutor, and she's more or less there at first to say you should stick to studies that you're good at, don't go for something that you don't really know as well. And she feels that it doesn't make sense for you to waste your time on something like that and take advantage of what you already know. And she does this because she was a former figure skater who retired and decides to teach, which is where her feelings come from. She comes off as cold at first, but she actually cares a lot about her students. And even though she's very professional when she's at work, she is a total slob, afraid of cockroaches, and a lightweight drinker. And you know, she essentially fills the role of the senpai in the show, so a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh yes, please, more Mafuyu. But that's essentially all that I really needed to explain from the show. There are a couple of other characters that are kind of minor roles. I feel like I don't really need to mention them because they're minor roles. In case you haven't caught on to the other show that I was talking about, it's called Quintessential Quintuplets, which more or less fills the same role. There's a guy that comes from a poor family, and a rich family decides to take him up, give him money, if he can train their 5 daughters to be good at studies, because they're absolutely terrible about it. The difference with this show and that show is in Bokuben, a lot of the characters got their own sort of reasoning for why they want to do what they do. With Quintessential Quintuplets, it's more or less just they're dumb as bricks, teach them. Like with characters like Fumino, she wants to learn astronomy to find the star that's her dead mother. Kinda weird, but at least it's admirable. And even in one of the last episodes, Yuiga mentions it's cool how the girls are going for something that's not exactly their strong suit, and it's kind of admirable that they would go for something even though it's difficult. But at the end of the day, this show does still have all of those tropes of Yuiga being in uncomfortable situations, like one time he ended up working at a bra shop or a women's clothing shop, and essentially all the girls came in. He was put in awkward, uncomfortable situations. They didn't know that it was him, and so on and so forth. If you're not a fan of those awkward comedy moments, then this show wouldn't be for you. Although, in saying that, I'm not a fan of the trope myself, but I did still find myself enjoying this show because each character brings something different to the table. If you don't like one character, there's a chance that you'll find another character that you like even better. Like, for me, for example, I like Fumino, but I'm not a big fan of Uraka. It just all depends on your own personal taste. But at the end of the day, I would say if I would have to give this a rating, this might upset a bunch of people, but I'm going to say 6 out of 10. Because I already gave shows like Hitori Bochi and Senryu Girl much higher scores, and I feel like those have much more rewatch value than this, because even the first time through, I was shaking my head at all of the uncomfortable misunderstandings that they were involved in, and it's just, like I said, awkward comedy. If you don't like awkward comedy, you wouldn't like this, chances are. But at the end of the day, it's just like Quintessential Quintuplets. It doesn't really end with Yuiga picking one girl, just like what's his name on Quintessential Quintuplets picking a girl, because the manga is still going for both of those shows, so it's not going to end anytime soon. But that is going to conclude my thoughts on Bokuben. Let me know if you watched it, if you enjoyed it, And if you haven't watched it, did my explanation of it make you want to watch it? Let me know down in the comment section, and I will see you in the next episode. Momentai.